Have you ever been lying in bed, completely ready to sleep, when your brain suddenly says, "Remember that embarrassing thing you did 3 years ago?" And somehow, the memory feels so vivid that you almost want to disappear all over again. Maybe it was a stupid answer in class, an awkward conversation, or a message you immediately wished you could unsend. The strange part is that your brain remembers thousands of ordinary moments, yet this one keeps coming back. So why does your mind keep replaying moments you desperately want to forget? The first thing to understand is that remembering something embarrassing doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you. Human memory isn't a perfect recording of everything that happens. It is selective, influenced by attention, emotion, and what we consider meaningful. That's why a random message you sent can suddenly become the most interesting thing your brain wants to review, especially when the event involved other people, because social experiences can carry a lot of emotional weight. And this is where the experience becomes frustrating. The more you notice the memory, the more attention you may give it. You try to push it away, but then you notice that you're thinking about it again. But here's where psychology gets interesting. Psychologists study memory as a dynamic process rather than a simple video stored inside the brain. When an event happens, different aspects of the experience can become part of your autobiographical memory. What happened, where you were, who was there, and how you felt. An emotionally intense event can therefore become especially noticeable when you look back on your past. That doesn't mean embarrassing memories are always stored better than ordinary memories. Memory is much more complicated than that, but an embarrassing moment often contains several ingredients at once: emotion, attention, uncertainty, and concern about how other people saw you. And one question can become especially powerful. What did they think of me? Notice something important here. You may be remembering the event, but you may also be remembering your interpretation of the event. Social experiences matter because humans constantly navigate relationships, cooperation, acceptance, and rejection. So after an awkward moment, your mind may revisit what happened and try to make sense of it. You might mentally examine the conversation. What did I say? What did they say? What should I have said instead? When this becomes repetitive and difficult to disengage from, psychologists may describe the process as rumination. But thinking about an event isn't automatically rumination. Sometimes reflection helps you understand what happened and move forward. The important difference is whether you're gaining something from the reflection or simply running through the same questions again and again. Imagine you're laughing with your friends when you suddenly remember a joke that completely failed last week, or you're studying and your brain suddenly brings back the exact moment you gave the wrong answer in class. At work, you might remember one awkward sentence from a meeting even though the rest of the meeting went perfectly. In a relationship, an old message can become especially memorable because you're not only remembering the words, you may also remember the uncertainty surrounding them. Social media can make this even easier. A post can remain accessible long after the moment has passed, giving you more opportunities to revisit it. Sometimes the memory isn't even particularly embarrassing until you analyze it later, and that's an important clue. Your current interpretation can influence how the old event feels today. You might remember a tiny interaction with a stranger that the other person probably forgot almost immediately. You can even replay a harmless mistake, like walking the wrong way through a door, as if it were a major historical event. Then, nighttime arrives, distractions disappear, and suddenly your brain has plenty of space for old memories. So we can start connecting the pieces. An event happens, emotion gives it significance, memory preserves aspects of it, and later, your mind can bring it back. One possible explanation is that emotionally meaningful experiences receive attention because they may contain information about future situations. Your brain doesn't consciously sit down and say, "Let's embarrass this person tonight." Instead, memory retrieval can happen automatically when something in the present reminds you of something from the past. And here's the big insight. The memory may keep returning, not because you secretly enjoy suffering, but because your mind has learned that the event matters to you. There's another important detail. Remembering an event isn't always identical to experiencing it the first time. Each time you think about the event, your current thoughts and emotions can influence how you experience that memory. That's why an embarrassing memory that once felt enormous can eventually become a story you barely care about. So what can you actually do when the memory appears? Instead of immediately fighting the thought, you can notice it. I'm remembering that embarrassing moment again. If reflection is useful, write down what actually happened rather than everything you fear it meant. Then ask yourself a simple question. Does this memory require action now, or is my brain simply bringing it back? Sometimes the most helpful response is realizing that an awkward moment can be real, uncomfortable, and still completely survivable. You don't have to erase every embarrassing memory. The goal is to stop treating every memory as an emergency. So the next time your brain randomly replays something embarrassing, remember, a memory returning doesn't mean the moment still defines you. Have you ever had one embarrassing memory your brain refuses to let go of? Tell me in the comments.